Welcome back, folks, to hashtag AskGSM here today. I am Graham GSM Matthews, and here's a dilemma with today's video. So I got my wisdom teeth out back on Thursday, and they beat the shit out of me to get those 4 teeth out because they were really dug in there. It's a long story, but it hurt like a bitch. And the thing was that, it was very naive of me to think this, but I thought the recovery process would be a lot quicker than it was. It's been 4 days, and I'm still hurting like a motherfucker. My mouth is still swollen, as you can visibly see. And this is not even the worst of it. The worst of it was on Friday and Saturday. It was a lot worse than it is right now. And it was pretty bad. So I'm going to try to do this video. I might have to go through some questions pretty quickly because my mouth has hurt me, but I did want to deliver a video. And just doing the audio, it takes a lot longer to upload, so I wanted to do the video. And I don't want to cheat you guys out of a great video here today because we got a lot to talk about. Not to toot my own horn saying today's video is going to be great, but to cheat you out of your great questions, my answers to your great questions in regards to Hulk Hogan and everything else going on right now. So like I said, just bear with me. I apologize if I mispronounce things. I come off like I'm all over the place today. My mouth is killing me, so I'm sorry. I had to miss the Daniel Bryan book signing on Thursday in Connecticut. I was planning on going. I had my surgery that same exact day. Excuse me. And I was going to go, and I was like walking out the door when I was about to leave for this book signing. My mouth was gushing blood. It was terrible. And I had to stay home. I was in so much pain. So never get your wisdom teeth out, but a lot of people have to, and it's probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had to endure. It's that bad. But I haven't missed one of these videos in a year and a half, and I don't want to start right now. So let's kick it off with this week's question, starting with the first KFC from YouTube. Their question was, is it a mistake that fans can vote on who's eliminated on Tough Enough? So I gave Tough Enough a chance. I'm going to stick with it because I think, I've already watched the first 5 episodes or however long it's been on. But it's jumped the shark with me. I'm sorry. I enjoy some parts about it, but the voting is obviously the biggest flaw with this show, in that the fan voting is terrible. With the coaches, or not even the coaches, it's the judges. The judges who have no say in who's. They have a huge say in who's eliminated. The coaches have no say in who's eliminated. They don't see what goes on. Throughout the week, they only see the highlight clips. The last season was so much better in that you had the trainers have a say in who stays and who goes, who they want to see in the bottom 3. Booker T, Lita, and Billy Gunn, to my knowledge, have no say who leaves and who goes. That's why they were visibly upset when Patrick went home last week in the video they put up on their YouTube channel, WWE. So it's very flawed. I know the fans voted off Patrick, and they kind of portrayed him to be a bad guy anyway by being too cocky, but it is what it is. The coaches shouldn't put him in the bottom 3 to begin with. I'm looking at you, Paige, and they should have saved him. They have a save for a reason. Who the fuck are they going to use that save on? No one else in this competition has it. They're decent. I like Sarah Lee, I like ZZ, I like Tanner, I like Josh to an extent. Mata's very good. But as Mick Foley put on Facebook a couple days ago, they're all long-term projects. So why the fuck would I want to save any of those people? Maybe Gigi too. She's good. She's probably going to win for the girls now. But that was just mind-blowing to me. That was mind-blowing. But, it's a huge mistake that fans can vote on who's eliminated because they only see what the highlight clips, and I know that's the typical thing with any reality show, but not even the fan voting, but the coaches, and not the judges, the judges having a say in who stays and who goes, only solely based off what they see on the show itself, and not what goes on what goes on behind the scenes. It's very flawed, and I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. His second question, what is one underrated main event match that took place at SummerSlam? So 2 come to mind. One, I don't know if it's underrated. I thought it was a very good match that probably does not get talked about enough. Vader versus Shawn Michaels from the 1996 SummerSlam. I thought was a great match. Also, as kind of an honorary mention here from the 2000 event, which I just finished watching just last night. The review should be up on Tuesday. Like I said, this weekend's been very painful for me. I went to work anyway, but in terms of talking and stuff, I still have discomfort doing that now, but I couldn't film the review on Saturday. We'll be up on Tuesday tomorrow, though, so look forward to that. But yeah, the SummerSlam 2000 main event with Angle, Triple H and Rock, I thought was great. I really enjoyed that. I haven't even heard of that match before I watched that pay-per-view. So, and I thought it was a very entertaining triple threat that I would probably classify as being underrated. I haven't seen 01 or I've seen 02. I haven't seen 01, 03, 04, 05, or 06 or 07. I know what the main events were, but for those early pay-per-views, I haven't seen the main events. I even forgot what they were, I think. So I can't really vouch for those just yet. But from what I've seen so far and reviewing them here for the channel, those two matches, Vader HBK, and then Angle, Triple H, and Rock from 2000 and 1996, respectively. Frankashir 15. Did WWE overreact with terminating Hulk Hogan's contract and not going to be mentioning him anymore? Firing him, they did not overreact. And I've been very vocal about this whole Hulk Hogan situation. I'm a huge Hulkamaniac. You know, I have his book sitting right in the back of my computer. I have a Hulk Hogan bobblehead, the Pop Funko figure, whatever you call it, vinyl pop figure. I have one of those right behind my computer. I'm a huge Hulkamaniac. Now, does the fact that he said those things that he said, the racist comments, when he was in a bad place, which I and very much in agreement with, that, and not what he said, but in that where he said it, at what point in his life, and that he was in a bad place. It was right before he kind of got his shit together, and he hasn't done anything bad, you know, for the most part. He hasn't said any stupid shit since that point in time. That doesn't make it right. I'm absolutely disgusted by what he said. I'm disappointed. But it doesn't make it right. WWE had to fire him. They want to get away from this thing as far away as possible. They do not want to be associated with Hulk Hogan at all. So they weren't in the wrong in firing him. It had to be done. I would have done the same exact thing if I was in charge of WWE. Now, the getting rid of the mentions of him from the website and stuff, you know, from Tough Enough, I get it. From a firing standpoint, I get that. But, you know, removing him from the Hall of Fame. Officially, he's not gone from the Hall of Fame, nor should he be. That's just dumb. I know you can also talk about the double standards with Michael Hayes and, you know, Mike Tyson and Donald Trump and all this other stuff in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, so I don't want to get into all that right now. I've already kind of spoken my piece about that on Facebook and on Twitter in the last couple of days. But the not going to be mentioned, the merchandise thing I get too, but kind of forgetting he ever existed, like deleting his stuff from the network, I think is a little much. I don't think people are going to shit on WWE just because they have his content on the network. He's Hulk fucking Hogan. He is wrestling. His, you know, if you look professional wrestling up in the dictionary, Hulk Hogan is right next to that. He is the definition of wrestling. He was what kind of made what WWE what it is today, pretty much. So without Hulk Hogan, there is no WWE. And I'm sure he will be back at some point. Someone else asked a question about that, and I'll talk about that when I get to it from the Twitter questions. But firing him, I don't blame them at all. But the mentioning of him and giving him the Benoit treatment, so to speak, it's a little much. Getting rid of like the NWO merchandise, I thought was stupid. That happened just yesterday, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, the Hulk, like the WWE Network content, just, you know, the rock and wrestling stuff or the cartoons. I kind of get that. I wouldn't have done that, but I kind of get it. Like, if you start to get rid of his matches and stuff, that's just dumb. It's Hulk Hogan, one of the greatest of all time. You can't scrub his name away from WWE history forever, and I'm sure it's only temporary, but they want to distance themselves as far as possible from Hogan, as much as possible right now. So I get that, but did they overreact in getting rid of it, like every single mention of him? They did. But firing him, absolutely not. It was justified in what he said. Now he's just got to pay the consequences. Also, moving on to the Facebook questions now. Kicking it off with Justin G. This past Monday, see, my mouth is botching on me now. It's failing on me, baby. This past Monday on Raw, we saw Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose back together, as well as Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt. Do we eventually see Seth Rollins and Eric Rowan back together for a Shield Wyatt family rivalry again? You know, I was thinking about that the other day, or right after the Wyatt family got back together, because I'm thinking at SummerSlam we could be seeing Ambrose and Reigns versus Harper and Wyatt, which would be 2/3 of the amazing Wyatt Family Shield match from the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view last year, which was probably one of, if not the best match from 2014 in WWE. I don't want to see that back. I don't want to see the Wyatt family. Absolutely, they should have never broken up to begin with. The Shield, I don't know where I saw it. Some people were saying that they broke up way too early, and maybe I was listening to it on a podcast or something. Someone said that they were kind of eerily similar. They shouldn't have broken up when they did. I didn't necessarily agree with the Shield breakup at the time that it happened, But in retrospect, it needed to happen. They needed fresh stars. Daniel Bryan was out hurt. CM Punk left, fired, whatever. He was gone from the company, bottom line. And they needed top stars. So I understand why they did it, why they broke them up, and they made single stars out of all three guys, and they're all doing very well for themselves right now. So that being said, I don't want to see a Shield reunion at any point in the near future. I've talked about that, at length here before. And that should it happen at some point? Absolutely, it needs to happen. But by late 2015, like to do a match at WrestleMania next year, I would mark, but it shouldn't happen. I think the Shield guys are doing very well on their own. That's why I was kind of down on the idea of them getting back together at Battleground, as some people pitched. It didn't need to happen. With the Wyatt family, it can happen. It should happen when Eric Rowan comes back from injury later on this year. The Shield, all three guys. I mean, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, I like the friendship. I like the buddy-buddy alliance between the two, but they don't need to get back with Seth Rollins right now. It wouldn't even make any sense after the whole split and the feuds between all three guys. At least with the Wyatt family, they never really... I mean, they've had matches against each other, but they never really broke up. Like, they didn't have a kind of a formal breakup. They just kind of went their separate ways. So it kind of makes more sense for them to get back together. But no, I would not want to see that match or feud or the reuniting of the Shield at any point in the near future. Maybe by late 2016, early 2017 at the earliest. His next question, when you look at Cena's rivalries in the past and his current one with Kevin Owens, which I assume is pretty much over, but I digress. Which rivalry do you think really brought out the best in Cena, as in promos, or promo work, and matches? I'm going to be talking about this in a upcoming Bleacher Report article, hopefully this week. But best Cena rivals, Kevin Owens is up there. CM Punk is my number one. If you want to put Kevin Owens above him, I would understand. But Cena's promos have not been this consistently good, or at least during this feud with Kevin Owens. I don't know how they're going to be now, but during his work with Kevin Owens, his promo work had not been that consistently good since the feud with CM Punk back in 2011. The Rock, I know they had a lot of goofy promos, early on in the feud. They were kind of making poopy jokes and stuff like that. Ha ha ha. A lot of shitty promos, no pun intended. But when it really came down to the nitty-gritty of it, especially going into the WrestleMania 29 match, they delivered some of the best promos of their respective careers, in my opinion. Maybe more so Cena than Rock, but the serious work they put into that feud when they were cutting serious promos was awesome, and I really enjoyed that. So Rock, Owens, Punk. Match-wise, Shawn Michaels was always obviously a great rival for John Cena. Edge, obviously one of the greatest feuds for Cena ever, if not the greatest feud for Cena ever. So I'd put Edge up there, if not, number one. He's definitely up there on the list. Those are only a few of them. The most I've enjoyed, the ones I've enjoyed the most, like I said, were Kevin Owens and CM Punk. But you could put Angle on there. You could put Shawn Michaels, Edge. Daniel Bryan had great matches with, not many, but they had that one amazing match in the main event of SummerSlam a couple years ago. And those were also some good promos with Cena and Daniel Bryan. But yeah, those are the people that I would put on the list in terms of Cena's best rivals from a promo standpoint and match standpoint. His next question, do you think Finn Balor could cross over into a heel once he is on the main roster? Now, some people have been talking about this in terms of what's the over-under on Finn Balor turning heel? Not upon as a rival on the main roster, but at some point. I think he is a perennial babyface. He is the perfect babyface. People just don't want to boo him. He's so great. He's so over right now in NXT. I know that doesn't always translate to the main roster, but trust me, it will with Finn Balor. The guy is just a spectacle. He is a star, in all caps, like I always say on Twitter. Maybe he can work with the demon thing. He can kind of have that dark character. I would not do it at any point in the near future, or at any point ever. I would never, ever do it, but if you want to experiment with it, I know he did it over in Japan. That was kind of a cool heel thing with the Bullet Club. But anyway, though, I think he is kind of the bona fide babyface, and I would keep him in that role for as long as possible until people start to turn on him, which hopefully won't be at any point in the near future. His next question, do you think the WWE has missed a chance totally, or not totally, I misread that, sorry. Do you think the WWE has missed their chance at really taking the Ascension serious enough for a big push in the tag team division? I am personally one of the loyal Ascension fans in the WWE today and would love to see a push with Connor and Victor. No, I like the Ascension not as much as I did before. I've been a fan of theirs since they debuted in NXT back in 2012. Now, I know they're not the same tag team after Kenneth Cameron, now known as Bram and TNA, got fired and they brought in Victor. Not nearly as good, but still a good tag team. Now, as Jamie Lee Mack was talking about on my podcast, Wrestle Rant Radio, just last week, and I wholeheartedly agree with him, he said that WWE failed with the Ascension when they were brought up to the main roster by not explaining them at all. They just kind of came up, started, mouthing off Demolition and Legion of Doom, kind of ripping off them, and that was it. They got, quote-unquote, buried in that one segment. No, they didn't get buried. That's what people said. But with the NWO and New Age Outlaws, whatever. And that was about it. They lost their undefeated streak shortly thereafter that, and they haven't been the same since. They've just kind of been losers, and they're rarely ever on television. So, I think they're decent. I don't think they're great, and I don't think they deserve a push right now. They're just not entertaining for a lot of people, myself included. I like the Ascension. I like their aggressiveness, but they're just very one-dimensional. They have that kind of, like I said before, like a lot of people have said before, the Demolition rip-off look, Legion of Doom rip-off look. And there's nothing that WWE can really do to market that right now to kind of... They're not popular, they're not entertaining, there's really no redeemable qualities about them right now that make them stand out above any of the other tag teams in the division at the moment. So I think they deserve a push at some point, but after they get repackaged and they drop the whole Demolition, 2.0 shit, because it's not working, obviously. It hasn't worked from the beginning, and it's not garnering any sort of reaction from the fans. So they need to kind of rethink their strategy, repackage them, do something new with them, because what they're doing now is not working. They'll never, ever get in contention for that tag team championship. I'll say this, be considered serious contenders for those twin titles until they're, completely repackaged and they can be taken seriously. Moving on to the other Facebook questions here. From Andre G. His question was, what mid-card superstars from the Ruthless Aggression era would you like to see return? I almost said Kurt Angle, but then you said mid-card. I mean, Kurt Angle's been in a lot of eras in WWE, but that's the one that I most associate with Kurt Angle. But anyway, mid-card superstars. I always like Carlito. I know he came back to the Hall of Fame about a year and a half ago at Hall of Fame the night before WrestleMania 30 to induct his father, Carlos Colon. That was pretty entertaining. He was really off the cuff. He just didn't give a shit. So that was kind of great to see Carlito back. I don't think he will be back. I don't want to see him back in full-time capacity. John Morrison's another guy I would love to see back. Carlito didn't give a shit. They kind of missed the boat on him. It's way too late now to start pushing him, but he was really good. And my number one, without a doubt, I know my buddy @_John's Jargon on the Twitter is going to agree with me on this one. Shelton Benjamin, baby. Shelton Benjamin. Bring that guy back. I'm not saying, with Carlito, they missed the boat on him. I'd be hypocritical to say they can give him the world championship and not Carlito. But he could be a great hand for NXT, for the mid-card, with the amazing amount of matches he could have with guys like Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens. All the other mid-carders and upper-tier guys in WWE right now would be phenomenal. Like I said, you don't need to push him. I think the time has kind of come and gone. Isn't he like his late 30s right now, or 40s? I don't think he's in his 40s. He might be in his late 30s. So his prime is kind of past him, but I would love to see Shelton Benjamin back, if only for like one night only for a one-off match or something like that. That guy was incredible, and I still get, I still want to see him back every single match I watch of his on the network or on a DVD or something. I always want to see him back because he's such a great talent. And I'm surprised no other companies picked him up. I know he was Ring of Honor for a while. He turned down TNA or just didn't work out, and he might be just doing indies right now, but I was always a fan of Shelton Benjamin. As is John. I know he wants to see him back too. He was always great. His second question here, who is your most underrated tag team since you became a wrestling fan? Now, it's funny you mention this. I was just thinking about this the other day. But in the last 7 years, 7 years since I became a wrestling fan, I almost lost the ability to do math there for a second. In 2008, the two tag teams both, coincidentally enough, involved Kofi Kingston. Air Boom, I wouldn't call them underrated. I just love that tag team. I thought those guys were great together. They had a lot of awesome chemistry. They had a shared theme song. They had similar attire. Kind of all the little, the little things that make a tag team great. They had them down to a T. They nailed those things, and I thought they made a great tag team. Had awesome matches. They had a really good reign as tag team champions. Then Evan Bourne fucked up, and then he got fired a couple years later. But still, I loved Air Boom. And even more so than them, kind of a forgotten tag team, the duo of Kofi Kingston and CM Punk are the R-Truth tag team I just couldn't have cared less about. That was so fucking random. Kingston and Punk, really good friends in real life, both had the history on ECW, and both had kind of a feud going on at that period in time with Team Priceless, The Legacy, Randy Orton, whatever. And they were a really good tag team. They didn't last too long. Their reign as tag team champions lasted a little less than 2 months. But they were a really fun tag team while they lasted. I wish we could have seen more of them. I wish we could have seen them reunite at some point or feud or something. They just had such great chemistry, in the ring together against each other or as a tag team especially, and I feel like they could have had gotten a lot more mileage out of those two than they did, but I thought that was a very underrated tag team as well. And his third question here, your thoughts on a Bray Wyatt versus Raven in his prime feud? That would have been a phenomenal feud. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. Raven feud back in his ECW days versus a Bray Wyatt would be incredible on all sorts of levels. I mean, you compare not even Raven in his prime, but you compare the feud between, if it was to take place now, like if Raven was in his prime today, and you had that feud in 2015 as opposed to 1995 or the late 90s when Raven was in ECW, it would be night and day. There's so much they could not get away with, and in today's day and age, that goes without saying. Especially with those two. Bray Wyatt, could he have worked better in like an ECW setting in the late 90s? Absolutely. The character would be completely untouchable. They wouldn't have booked him as badly as they have. Hopefully not anyway. But yeah, you put those two in a ring together. Not the matches could be good, but the feud itself would be worth watching for the promos alone. That would be just off the charts. Moving on to the Twitter questions now. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this. My mouth is really starting to kill me, so I apologize if I come off like clumsy and whatever. It's just, it's a struggle, I'll say that much. But moving on to the Twitter questions now, at Daniel Cabeza59. In an interview, Daniel Bryan said his doctor cleared him to compete, but the WWE doesn't. The WWE doctor doesn't. What are your thoughts? At the end of the day, they have the final say. Maybe a doctor, not an actual doctor, but you know what I mean, like a doctor that's not wrestling related, that does not work for WWE, has a better opinion of whether he can go or not, and as opposed to the WWE doctor. You would think it'd be the other way around. You would think that because the WWE wants him to get back in action as soon as possible, they would clear him, and an actual doctor wouldn't. Like a non-contracted WWE doctor would say, no, you can't do this. I know they just want you back out there so you can get back on, you can get your career back on track, you can get back in the ring, but no, we can't clear you. In this case, it's the other way around, in that WWE doesn't want to clear him, that they feel like it's, they're taking extra precautions. So that was interesting. I did see the interview where they were talking about that, so thank you for the link, Daniel. But Daniel Bryan, Daniel Cabeza, that's pretty funny. But yeah, I think WWE, I'm not saying they're smart to do, I think they are smart to do that, but I feel like they know what they're doing. They want to, I can't say I blame them, I think is what I'm getting at here, in that they want to take every precaution possible because they don't want to risk, throwing him back out there, bringing him back too soon like they did this past year. I feel like if they had him wait until after WrestleMania to come back, none of the shit, the way it went down, wouldn't have happened, or at least not as badly as it happened with the whole backlash from Bryan not winning the Royal Rumble and everything else. And maybe he wouldn't have had that lackluster storyline going into WrestleMania. But they're wise to keep him out of action for right now because they want to make sure he's 100%. I feel like that Daniel Bryan, well, he might be clear to compete. He's not 100%. I feel like it's pretty much obvious right now. So I would keep him out for a while longer. Until next year, I don't know. That's the rumor right now. But I feel like WWE is doing the wise thing right now in that keeping him out of the ring to kind of further elongate his health. I'm not saying he's going to die in the ring or anything like that, but they're taking every precaution possible with concussions and stuff like that. They're really cracking down, so I commend them for that. And I feel like it's a wise move, so we'll have to wait and see how it kind of pans out for Daniel Bryan. Hopefully he's recovering well. His second question, do you think The Undertaker attacking Brock Lesnar, making Lesnar lose his match for the title, makes him a sore loser? Absolutely. It absolutely makes Undertaker a sore loser. He comes back in a match that he was not involved in at all. Why he didn't do it at WrestleMania, I have no idea. But he comes in, he screws Brock Lesnar out of the championship, he low blows him, and not one but two, not one tombstone is enough, so he has to do it twice. So Undertaker is absolutely a sore loser in this scenario. That doesn't make him a heel. People are going to cheer him regardless because he's the fucking Undertaker. And I hate, like I talked about last week, like 3 people asked me about it here on the show last week and about who's the heel, who's the babyface, should they turn Undertaker heel, should they turn Lesnar back heel, whatever. It's not necessary. People will cheer for who they will cheer for. It's 2 icons. It doesn't really matter. They both have huge fan bases, so it won't affect the match at all. The dynamic of the match, it won't really matter. It absolutely does make him a sore loser from a storyline standpoint, though. In his promo last week, he kind of said it. Brock Lesnar ended my streak, fair and square, but he keeps on bragging about it, blah, 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 blah. I want to come back and put him in his place. he's still kind of butthurt from having his streak broken. And Michael Cole kind of said that on commentary. It didn't really match up what Taker was saying in his promo. Michael Cole was saying that ever since the streak was broken, he's been thinking about it every single day. If that's the case, then why didn't he take action at WrestleMania this past year? I have no idea. But anyway, though, yeah, Undertaker is absolutely, from a storyline standpoint, a sore loser. His next question: what is your opinion on the Hulk Hogan controversy? I already kind of said my thoughts on that before on Twitter and on Facebook earlier on in the video. I don't want to go too much in depth because I'm going to be probably talking about it in more detail tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio. But it sucks because, like I said, I'm a Hulk Hogan fan. It's really disappointing to see the kind of mess that he's got him in. And like I said on Twitter, I know he was in a bad place. That doesn't make it right. You do have to understand where he was coming from, though. He was kind of messed up. And he's 50-something years old, so he absolutely had, he was in his full mind. He wasn't like, messed up. He was kind of messed up. It's really hard to explain, but he knew what he was saying is basically what I'm talking about right now. He knew what he was saying. He's not like a 5-year-old kid where he will spout some shit and whatever. He said flat out, I am racist. So you can't really dance around that at all. I think it will blow over in time. I don't think he's ever going to really fully recover from it. But WWE was justified in firing him. It really sucks to see erasing him from the network and stuff. I think it's taking it a little bit too far. But it is what it is. WWE has to do what they have to do to kind of distance themselves from the Hulk Hogan brand for the foreseeable future. And, he was right to at least admit to it. I mean, if he said, no, I did not say that, and they have it on tape, then he would have been a lot worse shit than he is. I think the best thing that Hulk Hogan can do right now is just stay out of the limelight, stay out of the media, and just shut up. I love Hulk Hogan when he's on Twitter right now, kind of replying to everybody and saying thank you, which is one thing, that's fine. But when he's on Twitter, having retweeting comments that compare his situation to Obama using the N-word is ridiculous. It's going to put him in a lot worse situation if he continues to pull that kind of shit. I didn't even read the whole report. I just kind of saw the title, which might be my bad. But from what I saw, I heard that he retweeted some comment from a fan saying that maybe it wasn't right. Why is it right to, punish Hulk Hogan when Obama used the N-word? Two completely different things. It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. That's just stupid, and Hulk Hogan should be smart enough. I mean, maybe not. We're talking about Hulk Hogan here. He said a lot of stupid shit over the years. But he should be wise enough to know not to kind of get involved in that kind of stuff. It's going to put him in an even worse situation than he is right now. But it sucks. It absolutely sucks, and hopefully he can recover from it. And I believe, and I'll get back to his standing on the WWE thing in a couple minutes. But he said it. Now he's got to pay the consequences. I know it was 8 years ago. It does not make it any better. Don't get me wrong. He's not justified at all. It is kind of a disgusting thing to say. Doesn't make it right just because he's Hulk Hogan. He said it. It doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago, 30 years ago. I know, if he was 10 years old when he said it, that'd be a different story. But it was only 7 years ago. It was not that much longer. It was not that long ago. And just because it was 7 years ago doesn't make it right. It's like, oh, it happened so long ago, it's okay. No, it was only 7 years ago. It was not like 3 decades ago. It's still pretty fresh in people's minds, and it will be for a very long time going forward. And, I wish for him for the best. I feel sorry for him that he kind of got himself in this situation, but part of me also kind of feels he got himself in this mess to begin with, so now he's just got to kind of pay the consequences. You just got to watch what you say. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it be on social media or on videotape, or even if you believe it's in private. You got to be careful. I know it's like, this ultra-sensitive world and whatever, but that has nothing to do with it. I mean, this world that we live in is, this PC world that we live in. It can be shit at times, but being a racist is being a racist. It's not killing 2 people, Benoit style, which was horrific and even 10 times worse, that you should absolutely be, if Hulk Hogan did something like that, should be removed from the Hall of Fame and never be spoke of again. And, I hate to compare this kind of shit. Comparing it to the Benoit thing is two very different situations. One was Hulk Hogan just being an asshole, being a racist. It's disgusting. Benoit did something illegal, did something horrific, a terrible sin, the worst kind of act you could possibly commit. So I don't want to compare the two, but that, in terms of their treatment of Hulk Hogan, I know in this case, with Benoit, they also want to avoid the bad press, which is why they won't mention him, but nor should they mention him. The guy's a murderer, I mean, of course they should keep his stuff on the network, but with Hulk Hogan, though, the guy, it sucks, with Hulk Hogan, He just said a lot of stupid shit, which a lot of wrestlers have in the past. You know, it led me to believe, like I said on Twitter, if Shawn Michaels did the same thing, if it came out that he said something racist before or after, you know, the born-again Christian stuff, you know, specifically back when he was messed up in the late 90s, would the same thing happen to him? And I say that, you know, people said, absolutely. Why wouldn't it? Well, you know what? He's a friend of Triple H. You never really know. I hate to play conspiracy theorist. But if it was Kevin Nash, I know they kind of distanced themselves from him when he got in that legal trouble last year, but they never erased him from history. They just kind of took him off the billing for that Raw on January 19th. So, and that was different anyway, completely different situation. I don't want to compare, again, like I said before, I don't want to compare any two situations with Hogan's. Two very different things, multiple different things here. But like I said, it sucks. You know, hate to see it happen. I'm a fan of Hulk Hogan. Hopefully he can recover from this in some capacity, not fully. I don't think it's ever going to really happen. But hopefully we can see him back in the WWE at some point, someday. His next question here, what is your opinion on the judges of Tough Enough? Who's doing a great job as a judge? Who is your favorite? You know, Hulk Hogan's gone, so I can't really speak for him. Daniel Bryan's my favorite, hands down. The guy comes down, is very down to earth. He speaks his mind. He's just Daniel Bryan. He's not being anything that he's not, and he's very likable. Hulk Hogan was okay. He could be kind of a dickhead at times. He didn't really know what he was talking about sometimes, but it wasn't that bad. And Paige is just a bitch. Like, I love Paige. I'm a huge fan of hers. I still am to this day, even after seeing her on Tough Enough. But she comes off terribly. She would not shut her mouth. The Patrick thing annoyed me the most. I mean, she's been annoying me since day one. But Patrick, though, she put him in the bottom three for not being humble, not showing humility. Whereas she's the one that's spouting off her mouth. She's been, as John put it, she's only been in the, as he was telling me via text the other day when Patrick got cut, that she's only been in the WWE for a cup of coffee, you know, and she's still spouting off all this shit. It's ridiculous. She just will not shut up, you know. So I'm a fan of Paige, but she just comes off like a total bitch on that show. Daniel Bryan is easily my favorite. I don't know who they replace as Hulk Hogan's replacement. I don't know who they put in that slot. There's been rumors of Ric Flair, Bret Hart. Some people said Mick Foley. I don't see that happening, if only because after he kind of quote-unquote trashed the show, rightfully so, deservedly so, and they should not have gotten rid of Patrick to begin with, and he had every right to criticize the show. I'm glad he's not another one of these sheep. I'm not saying like Jericho's a sheep, but there's some people that because they work for the company, they won't speak up. Mick Foley, I don't know if he has a contract with them or is on a handshake deal. I'm not exactly sure, but he holds nothing back. He will speak his mind. That's why I love Mick Foley. Like the Royal Rumble stuff, I commended him for. He got a little out of hand at some points, but you know, in this particular situation, I'm in full agreement with Mick Foley that WWE's judges and the voting system is completely flawed and fucked up. So, yeah, Daniel Bryan's my favorite in terms of who they replace Hulk Hogan on the show with. I'd probably go with Bret Hart. Mick Foley would be great. I don't think they're going to go that direction after, like I said, what happened last week with him criticizing the show. So, Mick Foley would be ideal. I don't see that happening. Bret Hart would probably be the next best guy, or Shawn Michaels would be an even better host. Bret Hart, he'd probably be a little harsh in the competitors. We already kind of have that with Paige. He's kind of a bitch to everybody. In some cases, not rightfully so, but I digress. So I would go Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart. You know, Ric Flair would be nice. It would be cool to see him on the show, but how sane would he really be? I mean, his Raw appearances. The last one was really good, but everything else before that was really hit or miss. Mostly miss when he would come on the show, and it was just, it's just bizarre. It looks like he has no idea where he is. It looks like he's drunk. Like you have no idea what he's saying because he's just out of his mind. So I would go with Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels over Ric Flair, but Ric Flair is not the worst possible choice, in my opinion. His next question here, and final one from Daniel. Do you think WWE could choose to leave Brock Lesnar and Undertaker off of Raw? Oh, this is from Cody. I'm sorry. That was the last of Daniel's questions. This is from @CodyCollier37. I forgot to put the name of it, but I know this was Cody's question because I remember reading it. But do you think WWE could choose to leave Brock Lesnar and Undertaker off Raw so Triple H and Stephanie could protect their match at SummerSlam? Yeah, I mean, from a storyline standpoint, that makes sense. I could see why they would do it, not because of that, but because they're not going to have Lesnar appear on every Raw before SummerSlam. I don't think he's going to be on tonight. I feel like he's not going to be on the show until next week, or the week after that, maybe the week before SummerSlam. I don't remember when it is, but pretty sure he won't be on tonight. I don't know about Undertaker. I don't know what kind of deal he has now, if he's going to appear every single week. But they might want to give the spotlight this week in the main event, or focus the show around another storyline going into SummerSlam, like Cena and Rollins or something like that. I'm not really sure. We'll find out tonight. But yeah, from a storyline standpoint, that makes sense. I would love to see them on every Raw, but I know that's not going to happen. Lesnar will only be around for certain specific Raws. And Taker, I have no idea what his plans are, what his deal is currently with WWE in terms of how often he appears on programming going into SummerSlam. But yeah, I get the feeling we will not see anything like what we saw last week with Lesnar and Undertaker in terms of the epic brawl. I'm sure there'll be one of, if not both, will be kept off the show tonight. At Swagzio's got 2 questions here. If you became a creative writer for WWE tomorrow, what would be the first thing that you would do? I know creative has no say in this. It's not up to them, but say if I was in charge of WWE tomorrow, might be a better question because there's not so much you could change as a creative writer. I know a lot of people say, I myself included, put blame on the creative writing team, but at the end of the day, the person who has the final say is Vince McMahon. And even if I was Vince, I don't think he would have any. He does have some say in this, but it's all about the USA Network. I would make Raw 2 hours. I mean, I'm thinking right now when you ask that question, it's a great question. John, I think, also has the amazing mindset in that if he got hired by WWE tomorrow, or if they asked him to send in some sort of storyline plan, he has it. I think John is great in that way. _John's Jargon. I've talked about him here before countless times here on the show. You should know who John is by now. He's been on the show. He was on the show a couple weeks ago. But I mentioned him before. And, he has that great mindset where if they asked him, what kind of storyline would you do if you were creative writing for WWE? I would have no idea, but John is great, and he has something right off the top of his head. And your question, and I mean, I have the benefit of answering this question. I had some time to think about it because you sent it in last night, and I was thinking about it this morning. And I was running down all the issues, the current issues with the overall product and the company and whatever. Raw being 3 hours is one of, if not the number one issue, I think, with the product right now. It's a lot of overexposure. I would get rid of superstars. I would get rid of main event. I know they have their international deals. I'm sure they're not making much money off those, so why have them at all? I know any money is good money, but it doesn't justify having them around. I know they're not like on TV or anything like that, but it's just a waste. Why bother? Why bother wasting your expenses on a show that no one watches, no one gives a shit about, other than I know I watch it and review it for my website. But other than that, though, not many people watch main event or superstars anymore, so why bother? SmackDown, if you want to get rid of SmackDown, get rid of SmackDown. Why not? Because it doesn't have any importance anymore. And I know the second part kind of has to do with the first part. I would bring back the brand split, but you can't do that, like I've said here before in the show. You can't do that if Raw is 3 hours. There is no possible way you can have one unique roster, split the roster in half, and then fill the 3 hours up with 20 guys. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way that could be done, because when they used to have 3 hour shows back in the day, on the occasional basis, during the good times, it would be special because they would bring in the guys from SmackDown, sometimes ECW, when that was around. They would go all out. They would have everyone on the show because they couldn't fill 3 hours with just Raw guys. So yeah, I would make Raw 2 hours. It has to happen. It's way too much overexposure. And that's why I feel like people are tuning out. That's why the ratings are in the shitter. I don't know if it would make a huge difference. I feel like it would. And I know, like I said before, it has nothing to do with creative because it's all about USA Network. It was their decision to go 3 hours in the first place, kind of pressure Vince to booking that third hour because they get so much more money off of it. Maybe do a 3 hour show every once in a while, like we used to, like every other month. Like that'd be fine, as opposed to every single fucking week. But in order to do one, you need to have the other with the brand split thing. I can't just say bring back the brand split without Raw going back to 2 hours, because there is no way you can have a unique roster and have them fill 3 hours of TV time and then have the other guys on SmackDown. That's what SmackDown needs to be relevant again, is that to have their own roster like they did from 2002 to 2011. And until that happens, SmackDown will not be perceived as a top priority in WWE's eyes or the fans' eyes. His second question, what is one reason not to watch NXT? Wow, good question, because it's hard to answer it. I mean, if you're tuning into NXT, say you're not exposed to the product yet, you haven't given it a chance, and you watch one episode and you're not a fan of it, I don't know why you wouldn't be. But in the case that you aren't, you have to kind of go in with the mindset that not something must-see is going to happen every single week. At the end of the day, it's a developmental program, it's a developmental territory, NXT is great, but it's still a place for beginners. There's going to be some botches. There's going to be some, teasing, experimenting with character development and stuff like that. I'll critique NXT from time to time in my reviews and here on the show and stuff like that, but you have to always constantly remind yourself, while it is a brand, it's still developmental, where people are getting better, they're improving, and they want to end up in the main roster. That's where you can always debate which one's better, NXT or the main roster. I think it's kind of obvious from a creative product quality standpoint. But at the end of the day, that's where people go to get better. So you kind of have to remember that while watching people. Oh, well, there's so many botches in this match that there's no character development. Yes, that kind of falls on creative. They should not be on TV in that case. But you have to keep in mind that this is NXT. This is developmental after all. Also, one glaring issue, that I know that wasn't really your question, but kind of, if that was your question, one reason not to watch NXT. The one glaring issue with the product of NXT right now is their tag team division. It's getting better. They have Blake and Murphy. They have the new team of Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, which is great. I love that team. They should have been together a while ago. Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. You have the Vaudevillains. But it always seems like we get an influx of new talent in the tag team division, and then they just go away. Like, they either get called up or they disappear. I don't know what happens. And Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy are main roster bound very, very soon, so they're going to need all the talent they need. They're going to need all the talent they can get down in the NXT Tag Team division, because without them, the division is dead. They have some good teams, but Enzo and Colin are what are holding that division together. They are the glue of the Tag Team division in NXT right now. So some people will look at NXT for their Tag Team division and kind of criticize that, rightfully so. It's not perfect. That is the women are great. They're the highlight of the show more often than not. The men are awesome. But the tag team titles are where they kind of fall short. The tag team division is where they kind of fall short. They need to put more emphasis on that tag team division. Create more teams, create more compelling storylines, and no more like the 6-man stuff and the basic. They do the bare minimum. Criticize the main roster tag team division all you want, which is also not doing too well right now, not doing too great. They have a lot of teams that are out on the shelf for the time being, but at least their tag team division, they have a number of different tag teams, and they all have teams that people can I'm not speaking for the Matadors or the Ascension, but there are other tag teams both on the shelf right now and in active competition that people care about. In NXT, they have Cassidy, and like I said, they have a couple teams, but they don't do a great job of keeping them together for a long time, or not investing too much time in them, or not giving them, whether it be their characters or promos or matches or whatever. They just don't devote enough time to the tag teams or the effort into the tag teams. That's where hopefully they can improve upon, an aspect of the product they can improve upon going forward. E13A, their question was, ever feel like the Bella Twins do not care about getting actual heat? Absolutely. I don't know if it's their fault or the creative team's fault for booking them this way. I mean, it obviously falls on them, for always booking them as baby faces, then turning them heel and flip-flopping back and forth every other single fucking week. But I think the blame also kind of falls on them too, because they're not doing anything to elicit heat. At the end of the day, the creative team is not booking every single thing they do in that match. They're not booking, play to the crowd here, play to the crowd there. The Bella Twins are doing that on their own. Why the fuck are you doing that? I enjoyed the tag team match last week on SmackDown with Team Bad and the Bella Twins, but the Bella Twins were acting like baby faces. They were playing to the crowd, they were doing the hot tag, they were getting the rest hold shit on, like where they would be putting rest holds and then you get the hot tag to the Nikki or Brie or whatever. It's awful. I don't even hate the Bellas. I've talked about that before. I mean, they annoy me. They're not my favorite by any stretch. They've improved a lot. They've really done a great job of improving in the ring and as characters. But where they still need improvement is eliciting heat. I mean, they get good heat when they're bitches. But why as heels, when you're supposed to be the most hated people in the division, are you playing to the audience? That makes absolutely no sense. I don't care if it's a heel versus heel scenario at all. I don't care about that whatsoever. You should not be playing to the crowd if you're supposed to be a heel, especially with the Bella Twins, who people already have enough reason to not care about because they flip-flop back and forth. Thank God they have a fan base. I know there's a lot of girls out there, that look up to them, that are inspired by them, and that's awesome. But still, I mean, without that fan base, that people just would not give a shit. You look at people like fucking, I don't know, Layla, or not even Layla, Summer Rae, who does not have a fan base, or not a very big fan base, and people, when she comes out, just don't care. They don't give a shit because is she a babyface? Is she a heel? I have no fucking idea. We have no. I mean, now we kind of do with the Rusev thing. But before that, I had no idea because they were not doing anything with her at all. And I think the Rusev thing is still stupid. But still, it is awful. But yeah, I feel like the Bella Twins, they have passion for the business. I can never really say I don't know. I don't hate the Bellas. I'm not just speaking about this because I have a bias against them. But it does bother me. Like in the match last week on SmackDown, they're fucking playing to the audience. You're a heel. Stop doing that. It's not even being a cool heel. They're not trying to be cool heels. They're just going back and forth between babyface and heel and the character development in the Divas division. The matches have improved a lot in the last week and a half since the last 2 weeks since the women got called up from NXT. But since then, though, the characters are still need work. The Bella Twins specifically, the character development and the playing to the audience when you're a heel is such a small thing, but it makes the biggest difference. They have to improve upon that. It's just god-awful. His second question, do you believe Hulk Hogan will ever be back in WWE again? Talked about it before. I do think he will be. It's not like he killed anybody. You know, being a racist isn't that much better, but it's terrible what he got himself into, but I'm sure WWE will welcome him back with open arms. I know the Salamanca was talking about this on his podcast this past weekend, and I know I mentioned it on Twitter. Even before that, on Thursday or Friday, definitely on Friday, that's when the whole thing happened, or maybe on Saturday, I don't know. But the Ultimate Warrior, I know, I'm wearing a shirt of his right now. I love the guy. I'm wearing his hat right now. But he was a documented racist, homophobic. He's made some racist comments in the past, and WWE welcomed him back with open arms back in 2014. They welcomed him back into the WWE Hall of Fame. And they treat him like an idol, as they should be. I think he was a great human being and an awesome competitor and an icon in the industry. But you can't do double standards like that. You know, Hogan said some shit too, and the only reason why the Warrior thing wasn't blown up, and like I said this on Twitter, was because they're not in the bad press for it. If Warrior got some bad press for being a racist, in recent years anyway, they probably wouldn't have brought him back. They probably would not have reached out to him. If Michael Hayes, if he got bad press for being a racist, they probably would let go of him. But because it's not been has not been recognized by the media and has nothing to do with the stock, that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day, and making or losing money, they won't fire him. You know, I don't know if they're that petty. Like if someone said something racist backstage, they won't fire him. Like with the Del Rio thing last year, they had to fire that guy. They got media out of it, not as much media as Hogan, obviously, but the guy who made the racist comments, they should have fired him a lot sooner than they did. I believe the thing happened in August. They didn't fire him until October. From what I understand, that's bullshit. But still, I mean, they didn't get that bad press about it. It's not just because, no one saw it, no one knew about it, so we won't fire him. I'm sure WWE is not that dumb. But in the Hogan thing anyway, he's such a huge name. People are automatically going to associate him with WWE, so they had to do what they had to do to distance themselves from him. And, I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. What I'm trying to say is that he will be back. I'm sure he will be back at some point. It may not be next year or the year after that, and then at least in the next decade. I know he's 61 years old. He does not have that much. I'm not saying he's going to die in the next 5 years. I hate to say that. I love Hulk Hogan. Oh my God, I would hate if he died. I would hate if anyone died. I mean, Dusty Rhodes. I didn't grow up on him, and I cried when he passed away, or at least after watching that video package. I was bawling my fucking eyes out. That was terrible. When Hulk Hogan passes, it's going to be... I don't even want to get into that right now, but wow. He'll be back at some point, no doubt about it in my mind. I said the same thing with CM Punk. People believe the chances of him ever coming back are very slim, but in my opinion, I feel like he'll be back as well as Hulk Hogan. Next question: what is the number one most infuriating component of John Cena's character? The lack of ability to change up his character. You know, I've said that before. I mean, he's kind of improved upon that with the U.S. title stuff, in working with younger talent and doing the best work of his career from an in-ring standpoint, the promo work and stuff like that. So he's essentially the same character that he was in 2007, 2008, the same exact character side by side. Nothing has changed about the character, and that's what kind of is most infuriating about him. I enjoy his matches, I enjoy his promos, I enjoy John Cena, but the lack of ability to change is what kind of bothers me sometimes. And he has done that with U.S. title stuff, like I said, but other than that, though, he has not changed that much at all. And also, this is not his fault, but the booking of his feuds, in that He loses one match and then he'll win the next two, or he'll win the first match, lose, and then win again, win the feud in the end. I can count on one hand the amount of feuds that John Cena has lost, if any at all. I'm sure all the feuds that John Cena has had is either won in the end, he got his win back at some point. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it's not his fault. Maybe he should, have a say in the finish and say, maybe I should give the young guy a rub here. Like with the Kevin Owens thing, there was no reason why he should not have won that match. Kevin Owens, that is. He should have won the belt. He should have not fucking tapped out, for one thing. But he should have won the match. And it's ridiculous. I mean, the predictability of his feuds are so... It's not terrible, but I mean, it's just... Like, really, it's disappointing. The Owens feud, I feel like they could have had him... Have Owens be that one guy he could... face and not lose to. I mean, I'll rephrase that. Face and not beat right off the bat, which was what they did. They had Owens win the first match, but they had him win the next two matches. You couldn't have had him, at least had Owens win the first and second matches. If you want to have if you want to have Cena go over in the end, that's fine. But they should have had Owens be that one guy that Cena could not beat. Cena loses to him 2 or 3 times, then he finally gets his win back. It would have meant more. I wouldn't have been as pissed about the finish at Battleground as I was. But I feel like that is one of the problems, one of the issues that I have with the John Cena character in 2015. We got a number of questions left, like about 10 questions left. I don't want to spend too much time. I do want to go into the hour. Like I said, my mouth is killing me. I hate to bitch and moan, but I can hardly even speak, so I don't want to continue to put you through as much pain as I'm in right now. So I'm going to kind of go through these next questions quickly. At Big Bird 432, who would you push, repackage, and release? John Cena, Brock Lesnar, or Randy Orton? That was an awesome question because they're all top stars, so it's really hard to say. Push Brock Lesnar. I mean, how can you really push a guy that's been undefeated for 2.5 years? But Brock Lesnar. Repackage John Cena. A perfect segue from the last question. He needs a character change. Repackage John Cena. Release Randy Orton. I'm a huge Orton fan, but out of those three, he has to go. He's not as big of a draw as the other guys. He's had his career. I would just let go of him. It's like CM Punk. Like if he was to leave tomorrow, the company would not, fall apart. Like when CM Punk left, they were fine. I mean, some people stopped watching after Punk left, but the company didn't crumble. I mean, John Cena, if he left, if he got injured, if something happened to him, God forbid, the company would be in deep shit. Brock Lesnar, they wouldn't be in deep shit if he left, but the product would not be nearly as entertaining as it is right now because his presence alone brings so much to WWE, brings so much to Raw and the WWE programming. So that's the way that I would do it. Push Brock Lesnar, repackage John Cena, and release Randy Orton. At Hale Zeppelin, should the Bellas just go away or stick around to give the NXT call-ups some heat? I just got finished talking about the Bellas, but they're not terrible. It's just the character development is horrendous with those girls. Part of the blame goes on them for not controlling their actions in the ring, for not, having better common sense to not fucking play to the audience as a heel. But the Bellas aren't that bad. I mean, a lot of people might disagree with me in that, and that, they don't have to leave. Would I care if they left? Not really, to be honest with you, but I don't really care if they stay either, because they've improved in the ring, and Nikki Bella is a good hand in the ring. She's improved a lot as a heel. I would love to see them split up. I know that kind of the money is in them as a duo, but I like Nikki better on her own than with the whole Bella Twins shit. It's been going on for 7 years at this point. I'm so beyond the Bella Twins act. And it's a lack of ability to evolve with the times. Like I said with John Cena, it must be something that runs with I don't know, runs in the family. I know they're in a relationship right now, so that won't even make any sense. But anyway, I digress. Dumb joke aside, they don't need to go away. But Brie Bella's probably on her way out if she can get pregnant in the near future. Nikki's probably going to be around for a while too. I don't care if they stay or go, but the purpose should be to put over the younger talent in Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Becky Lynch. They should not be dominating everyone in the division. Give some other woman a chance. Like with AJ. I'm a huge AJ fan, but they needed to pass the torch at some point. They did it to Paige. They needed to pass that torch on to someone else at some point too, and that is now Charlotte and Sasha Banks. So they don't need to go away, but they need to at least put over the NXT talent and work with them and make them look good. And so far, so good. They have put them over in some instances. I know they went over on SmackDown. I didn't have an issue with that because the Bella Twins have lost a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. So I don't have a huge issue with them winning on SmackDown. But other than that, though, they've done a nice job of establishing Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Becky Lynch, all the new call-ups from NXT from the women, as credible threats in the Divas division, the women's division. I hate saying Divas, but that is what it is at the end of the day, unfortunately. That Scarlet One's got a couple questions. How do you feel about the 2015 booking of Dean Ambrose? Some people will say that he's been buried. I don't say that at all. I mean, it's been really good. He main evented a lot of pay-per-views. It's been inconsistent. He goes from, looking like shit in the Rumble to having a good outing and, being just another guy in an IC title match at WrestleMania, to having a decent feud with Luke Harper, to main eventing pay-per-views for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, to not being on the pay-per-view card at all. So it's been a roller coaster of a year from a character standpoint for Dean Ambrose, but he's still the most over guy in the entire company, so it's not like WWE dropped the ball on him by, making him less over. People still fucking love Dean Ambrose, and they'd be dumb to turn him at any point in their future. I know his future is as a heel, but he's so over right now, it would be foolish to turn the guy. So, the booking of Dean Ambrose has not been great, but at least he's still over, and it's not, he's not on Superstars. He has not been buried. I hate when people say that. Dean Ambrose has not been buried at all in 2015. He's been well booked for the most part. Inconsistent, yes, but it's been well booked for Dean Ambrose. And like I said, the fact that he's still the most over guy, or one of the most over guys in the entire company, is a true testament to how he continues to survive despite how WWE sometimes can put him in a bad situation. He can still make the most of it and make it good. Second question from them: what is the most consistently entertaining part about Lucha Underground? Two things: the storyline consistency, and the fact that they always have great matches. Also, as well, the in-ring action is always amazing. Raw and SmackDown, you can never really count on there being one great match in the show every single week. Even NXT is awesome. There's not always a show. Not every single week is a show where there's like, oh, I need to see that match. Sometimes it's just standard squash matches, and that's okay. Lucha Underground, it always feels like there's at least one match that gets you hooked. And if it's not in the matches, it's a promo or a backstage segment. The backstage segments are always amazing. And I just got done talking about that in the random video blog for last week, talking about how you should be watching Lucha Underground. I know it ends next week, unfortunately. But Lucha Underground is so great, though. But yeah, the most consistent, entertaining part is easily the storylines, with there being actual logic, unlike in WWE, and the in-ring action, which never ceases to amaze me. Up next from them, if Shawn Michaels did one more match against an NXT wrestler, who would you want it to be? Great question. Tyler Breeze would be nice, given the similarities between the two. Tyler Breeze kind of reminds a lot of people of like a younger Shawn Michaels, which I could absolutely see, myself included. I kind of make that comparison as well. But Breeze is not like a top star in NXT right now, nowhere near as being a top star, so I wouldn't waste a Shawn Michaels one more match on him. I hate to say it, but probably Finn Balor. I mean, Sami Zayn would be good. Samoa Joe would be pretty cool. Kevin Owens, I wouldn't really count him. He's kind of not really part of NXT anymore. I know he still is. He's going for the title next month. But I would go with Finn Balor. The star power, just the entrances alone would be phenomenal. But Finn Balor versus Shawn Michaels would be something special, let me tell you. At RJ_Marceau, good old RJ's question was, who should beat Nikki Bella for the Divas title? Sasha Banks or Charlotte? Wow, good question. It could go either way. Personally, I would like to see Sasha Banks, and some people would say, oh, she has the women's title in NXT. It wouldn't make any sense. Paige, when she got called up from NXT, she was holding the NXT Women's Championship. She didn't bring it to Raw with her, but she was at one point a dual NXT Women's and Divas Champion. So it's not completely out of the ordinary. From a booking standpoint, though, it will probably be Charlotte because she's the babyface, and if she beats Nikki for the belt, they have a babyface and heel feud. They could do Charlotte and Nikki for a while, and then kind of move on to Charlotte versus Sasha, hopefully at some point over the Divas Championship. But I would want it to be Banks, but I would not be pissed if it was Charlotte, and it probably will be Charlotte. That's my pick. At Lesnar support, how hurtful would a loss at SummerSlam be for Brock Lesnar? After his 2-year unbeaten streak, will it put him back to square one? I don't think so. I said in my Bleacher Report article last week, which they did compliment me on, so thank you at Lesnar support. But all my thoughts are on that, or in that article, but he would not be dead in the water, Brock Lesnar, that is, but I don't see the point in it. Beating Brock Lesnar should be a huge thing. It should be getting a major rub, because the guy was the 1-21-1. He should not be beaten by Undertaker just so he can get his win back. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. Brock Lesnar should be saved. Getting beaten anyway should be saved for a big moment. For a younger superstar who can benefit from beating Brock Lesnar and beating the one who put the 1 in 21-1. Last couple of questions here. First from at Reborn again. Do you see Undertaker and Brock Lesnar being better than their WrestleMania 30 match, or Taker versus Lesnar at SummerSlam this year? Absolutely. I mean, like I said on Twitter in my articles, on Facebook. Like I said in a post last week, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2015. I'm sold. And I said it last week here on the show. I was not sold on Taker versus Lesnar at SummerSlam one-on-one because their matches 30 sucked and the feud sucked. So why would I want to see a rematch, you know? And I feel like there's better things they could be doing with Brock Lesnar, putting him up against fresh faces and not the same old tired matches that we've seen not only just last year, but how many times did we see Undertaker and Brock Lesnar? Let's go back to 2002. They feuded in 2002. They feuded in 2003. They almost feuded in 2004 before Lesnar left. They would have done that feud again if Taker didn't leave, if Lesnar didn't leave the company. So for some reason, WWE has this hard-on with a Taker and Lesnar feud. And I know they're doing it for the money to generate, you know, to pop a big rating for Raw. Ratings are low. I get it. And I'm not complaining because I think after that brawl that we got last week, this match could be a hell of a lot better than it was last year. And Undertaker's health at that time was horrific. So I'm hoping that he can hold up and deliver a better match. And he looked pretty good in the brawl last week. Lesnar should be good in that match too. And the storyline and the feud so far has been a lot better. That one brawl superseded anything they did on the road to WrestleMania just last year. So I do have hope the match will be better. It might not be an instant classic. It will be in the main event though, it looks like. But I do have hope that it will be at least somewhat good and at least an improvement over their last battle at WrestleMania 30. His second question, do you think this whole thing with Hulk Hogan will put the idea of the NWO in the Hall of Fame on ice for a good while? Definitely. Unfortunately, yes. And I put this out on Twitter just last night. I read a report and I looked it up and it was accurate. WWE, I cannot pronounce anything right now. My mouth is still in a state of immense pain. I apologize. WWE took down the NWO merchandise from the WWE shop website just recently because Hulk Hogan's name was attached to it. His name wasn't even on their fucking shirt, so why does it matter? He was one guy in a group. He was one of 3 guys in a group. Why take off the shirt? I understand if you want to take the Hulkamania stuff off the website, go ahead and do it. I would have done the same thing. I understand why you would want to take the Axelmania stuff off the website. Go ahead, I would do the same thing. Sucks for Curtis Axel, but I would do the same thing. Why would you take the NWO stuff off? You know, that doesn't... Why? You know, I mean, I know Hogan was an integral part of that group. He's the 3rd guy. But his name isn't even on the shirt. It's NWO. Why? That's so stupid. I think it's taken a little bit too far, but that's a huge indicator that the Hall of Fame with the NWO, their induction, if Hogan's not going to be back for a while, they're definitely not going to be inducted next year, or at least anytime in the near future. And I'm sure they will be in at some point along with D-Generation X. They should wait for the DX induction until Triple H is in. That's why, you know, the NWO thing makes sense now because Hogan's in. Hall is now in, and now Nash is in as of this past year, so it would make sense to do an NWO induction at some point. So it will be on ice for a good while, unfortunately, the whole Hulk Hogan scenario. They're not just going to have Hall and Nash accept the... Hall and Nash, and I'm thinking like Virgil, because he was a huge member of the NWO, wasn't he? Or Ted DiBiase, why not? But, yeah, you won't be seeing NWO induction in the WWE Hall of Fame at any point in the near future, unfortunately. And the final question from Sean, or Sheen, I think it's Sean, I apologize if I mispronounced that. Mark Istick, I think is how you pronounce it. His question was, are you for or against Undertaker versus Sting at WrestleMania 32? Said this before here on the show. I said in an article for Hitting Remote a couple weeks ago, my dream card for WrestleMania 32. That is a match I want to see. Undertaker and Lesnar. I'm not going to sell you on the match. I'm not going to sit here for 5 minutes and tell you why it's a good idea because I've done it before. And my mouth fucking hurts and I want to end this video quickly. But Undertaker and Sting is a money match. Not just for wrestling fans, for people going back to the Attitude Era. The WCW fans, it is a dream match. It will bring, not everyone back, but it's going to bring back that portion of the audience. It's like, wow, they're finally doing this match. It's a big match. I might actually tune in this year to WrestleMania. I know it's a nostalgia thing. You should not be always selling your WrestleMania main event on old-timers, on guys that have, on guys that are no longer in their prime. An Undertaker or Lesnar. Lesnar's still amazing, but you know what I mean. On the part-timers, they should not be selling WrestleMania on. But Taker and Sting, it doesn't have to be main event, but Texas is a great place to do it. They're both from the Texas area. Make it a retirement match, as Jim Ross said on his podcast. Both guys leave WWE and retire no matter what, so the ending outcome doesn't matter. So it doesn't make it predictable. And the story itself would sell that match for a lot of people. I feel like the story of the match would be what would make that match worth watching. The match could be shit for all I know, but the feud, the promos, and the story they could tell would be, no pun intended, phenomenal. So I would do that match at WrestleMania 32. I think it's a mistake if they don't do it. And I know Vince is not for the idea. I understand that. I talked about that last week. It sucks. But I feel like with Sting finally in the company and now they have the chance to do it, I see no reason. If they were going to do it at WrestleMania 27 as rumored, they were going to bring in Sting to do it at WrestleMania 27, then why would Vince change his mind now? I know Vince changes his mind from one day to the next on what he's going to wear, what he's going to eat, and what his WrestleMania main event's going to be. But for something like that, though, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Vince is against it. But it is disappointing, though, because I feel like that's a match they're really missing the boat on if they don't do it before both guys retire from the ring for good. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of hashtag AskGSM, the Wisdom Teeth edition of the episode. So I apologize again if I come off as a fumbling mess on this episode. My mouth is in beyond an immense beyond amount of pain, as you could probably tell from me moaning about it and complaining about it this entire episode. But it hurts, and I wanted to let you know that so I don't come off this episode sounding like an idiot and you have no idea what the reason was for. But hopefully this whole mess, this will all be cleared up in the next couple of days. I mean, usually the recovery process is a lot quicker for a lot of people. I know my brother's mouth, who also got his wisdom teeth he got his wisdom teeth out the same day I did on Thursday. But the fucking doctor, that Isaac Yankem son of a bitch, had to really beat the shit out of me to get those teeth out of my mouth. I mean, I was out, so I don't remember anything at all. They knocked me out with whatever it was, the IV or whatever they drugged me with. But I don't remember anything at all. But the teeth, the way they were growing in and stuff, the wisdom teeth that is, they were like in my gums. It hurt like a motherfucker. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have to get your wisdom teeth out at some point, just prepare for a terrible, terrible experience, because it's not fun. If you already got them out, God bless you. It's over with. That's what the positive that I'm looking at here is that it's done with, and I never have to get it done again. And then, and if you in the rare circumstance you never have to get them out, then God bless you. I envy you. I wish I was you. But hopefully for Wrestle Rant Radio tomorrow, I will be able to speak for another hour again. If I can do it for today's video, I'm sure I'll be able to do it for Wrestle Rant Radio tomorrow, which hopefully we will be having Gabby on from Tough Enough, an eliminated competitor from 2 weeks ago. My dad's friend, he is Tommy, the guy who appeared on Tough Talk. My dad is good friends with him, so I have that connection with Gabby. We did an interview for Bleacher Report before she joined the show, and that's up on my Bleacher Report profile from last month. But now we'll be speaking on Wrestle Rant Radio, hopefully tomorrow, about her elimination and all this other stuff, and the experience on Tough Enough, why she felt she got eliminated, the fan voting, her thoughts on that, and her future in wrestling, and everything else along those lines, so be prepared for that. Be on the lookout for that tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio, only on nextairwrestling.net, where I do live coverage of Raw, hopefully tonight as well. And, yeah. So check out nextairwrestling.net. Follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant, where you can send in the questions for this very video. If you want your question featured here on the show, you can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook. Leave a comment. I'm botching. I'm sorry. I really do apologize. You can send me a question on Facebook. Find me on there, like the page at Graham at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or leave a post on the wall itself. And last but not least, you can leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. So on that note, folks, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You guys are awesome. Have an awesome week. Hopefully you never have to get your wisdom teeth out. And I'll catch you folks next Monday.